Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to Corey's confusing, nonsensical, unnamed book reviews. Still untitled. uh, Today we're going to be talking about Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master by Michael E. Shea. This is a self-published book, I believe. So you can see it's not a very fancy book, but it is really great. Let me just read the blurb on here. That's the back cover. Prepare what benefits your game. Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is a book designed to help game masters of all kinds get more out of our role-playing games by preparing less. This book makes use of the experiences of thousands of other GMs to help you focus on how to prepare your games, how to run your games, and how to think about your games. Built around an 8-step process for lightweight game preparation, it covers a wide range of practical steps and preparation activities that will bring the biggest impact to your game. Building off the concepts of the well-received GM's guidebook, The Lazy Dungeon Master, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master updates the lessons of that book with 5 years of new insights, new approaches, and new observations to the way people prepare and run RPGs. Funded by over 6,700 backers on Kickstarter, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master offers a new focused approach to preparing or running roleplay games. It is, let's look it up. How much is it? Lazy Dungeon Master. It's fairly inexpensive. It's like $8 on Kindle and $17 in paperback on Amazon. And of course, the guy has his own website. This author actually has a YouTube Sly Flourish YouTube channel, which is fantastic. So just the long and short of it, for anybody, the impatient folks, I highly recommend this book. If you are looking to if you're a GM, or you're looking to learn how to GM, or you're looking to get more efficient with being a dungeon master or game master or whatever, GM, DM, I always get it messed up. But if that is the case for you, which it was for me, pick up this book. This book is an amazing book. It doesn't seem like it, but the book could be so valuable because I've been going through the well, it's not here, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I'm about halfway through it. And for me personally, it hasn't been the official core rule book. Dungeon Master Guide hasn't been as helpful in like learning how to be a DM, because I just started being a dungeon master for my nieces, and I've run a game for like some friends once. But I don't know what I'm doing because I'm so new at it. And but I've been running this the starter set for my nieces regularly. I think we're on like the fourth or fifth session or something like that. And it has this module that's included, the Lost Mines of Fandelver, which is a beloved adventure module that the whole community loves, but and it's somewhat set up to be easy to run, but I'm new to it, and it's taken me a long time to prepare, and so I wanted to, get a book to figure it out. Now, this book came recommended. There was a Dungeon Craft, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you search YouTube for Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, this book is going to come up, and people are going to be raving about it. I saw it in several different places, people talking about this book, and so I picked it up. And indeed, it is fantastic. So the core of the book is mostly about... So he had a book before this called The Lazy Dungeon Master, which came out right around when Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition came out. But this, like you mentioned on the blurb on the back, is an updated version, which is a little bit more streamlined. And he does mention kind of in the book that you don't need to have the other book. This is like the new canonical process or whatever that he would recommend. After, having learned the system of 5th edition systems and everything, it's not 5th edition specific, but obviously it has a lot of it's highly applicable to 5th edition. That's what's on everybody's mind because everybody plays 5th edition right now. So anyway, so what is now this Sly Flourish? He has an excellent YouTube channel. I'm subscribed to him on YouTube, and it's like everything he puts out like a weekly video that summarizes like what's been going on with Dungeons and Dragons. But he also has like he has like some tutorials. Like when I was going to do this module here, he has like a whole series of videos that talks about preparing to be a dungeon master for this. So things to be thinking about for your players and stuff like that. So that was really helpful. He also has videos on each of the steps, the 8-step process according to this, and he has videos on each of the steps. Now, I did. You're never going to see it, but I did make a hour-plus long video breaking down this whole book, and I'm not going to subject anybody to that. So we're going to streamline it a little bit. And so the 8 steps are: review the characters, create a strong start, outline potential scenes, divine secrets and clues, develop fantastic locations, outline important NPCs, choose relevant monsters, and select item rewards. Now, I read this before my last module preparation that I had to do last Saturday for my nieces, and it was I read this like in a couple hours. It's a very quick read. It's like 94 pages or something like that, and it's very large print and lots of space, so it's not a dense book or anything. And it was immediately I was getting useful stuff like right out of it from the steps, just going through the steps. And it made my game preparation so much better, like immediately better. This book is so valuable because I don't know what I'm doing. And this gave me like very clear steps that were very effective. And we'll go through a little bit of these. I guess I'll just go through the steps really quick. I'm going to try to get this down to like 15 minutes, but we'll just go through the steps and how it like applied to the game that I did. So review the characters. So that step is like making sure that whenever you're running the game that you have the characters that are going to be in the game in mind. At the very least, know the characters' names, because sometimes, it's not Joe. Joe isn't Joe in the game. Joe is playing, I don't know, Bobalina the warrior or something, he's playing something, he's playing another character. I play my character with my DM game. I'm not Corey at the table, I'm Hector, the cleric. So and that brings people into the game, and plus you also forces you to think, especially when you have a longer running game, to like try to tie the story into the characters' backgrounds, and so that they can role play more and stuff like that. So this is something that I didn't even notice in the starter set module. Is actually even in the background section for it comes with pre-made characters, right? So you don't have to do character creation. And it has backgrounds, and it even has like has the backgrounds and like personal goals. So like in the background section, it says for the cleric. No, for one of the soldiers, it says one of the soldiers' personal goal is teach the Red Brands a lesson. And that's part of Red Brands is a gang. That's part of the module or whatever. And it goes into more detail here. But knowing that, you could tie that more into the story as I'm running this. I didn't even know this was on here. It was one of my players that's running the module, that's playing the module, actually brought it up in conversation, and she was already incorporating that background. She was role playing, and I didn't know anything about that because I hadn't reviewed the characters. So that was not a mistake that I made after that. I got caught up on that. So that's the review the character stuff. Make sure you know who the characters are in the same, and then create a strong start. That could be, it's basically anything. The example that he uses in the book is, it's like every James Bond movie starts you like right in the middle of the action. you don't start with this, scene setting and then a long dialogue or nothing like that, or nothing like that. You're like literally you're jumping off a balcony into a convertible, the sports car, and they're taking off, the fancy BMW or something. You're immediately in the action. And so that's what the idea is. It's not necessarily a combat scene, not necessarily a chase scene or something, but immediately get something that's engaging to your players right off the gate instead of letting people piddle around and chit chat. And, it's just get them rolling dice really quickly. If it all fails, get them in combat and rolling dice quickly. That'll get them engaged. That's the idea, is to get in there and get the blood pumping like as soon as possible. And also the next step is outline potential scenes. So it says scenes here instead of location. We'll get to locations in a minute, but and that was really helpful whenever I read that. It was like scenes. So like whenever I was doing the create strong start, I immediately came up with a couple of different scenarios that depended on how the introduction happened at the beginning of the story, I would immediately start off with one of these scenes or one of these events. And so like one of them was like they would depending on how we started the that game. I'll get into depending on how they recapped the last session would be how we started the new session. So one of the things, the scenes that I had set up, the strong starts that I had, they would hear like a crashing sound behind the wall, and if they had best day, they would find a secret room, and then they get in the secret room, and then they find Glassstaff fumbling around on the floor because he dropped his inkwell or whatever, and it's splattered, and he's cleaning up, and they caught him by surprise, or like a guard comes around the corner and they're right by the barracks, if that was the recap, that they were still right by the barracks. So and then of course the guard's like awkward, and then he runs back in, and if they don't react fast enough, and they go, we start combat like right then and there. So that was a couple of things. And then another one was they hear a scream, and then they go to try and rescue Myrna or wherever her name is from the Red Brands. So there was several different strong starts and potential scenes. So you had the scene with the Glassstaff on the floor trying to clean up Linkfell and getting surprised. The guard getting surprised, and then the other scene is hearing the voice, in the distance, the screams of the woman and the children, and going and investigating and finding some Red Brands like heckling a lady and some children behind bars or something. Those were the scenes, and just thinking about it that way instead of just locations, I think helped me think about it a bit more vividly, and it helped give me a stronger touchstone to the scenarios and so on. Another thing that it says the next step is define secrets and clues, and I found this really useful because in these modules here it has a whole bunch of like NPCs, and like specifically there's like the section, the second chapter, it has you find a whole bunch of NPCs, and specific NPCs know specific things. And one of the things that it mentions in the book is don't do that. You don't have to follow that. Is you can just have a list of like secrets that you can dole out from various NPCs as the adventure continues, as the adventurers either talk to people or they traverse the world. They can just discover these clues as they come up, so you can put them up, put those secrets out as they're appropriate, as appropriate breadcrumbs, not from specific people or places or anything like that. And I found that far more useful because like a couple of sessions back, I had them like running all across town, like talking to, oh, you need to go talk to Joe and Joe, so-and-so, and he'll go tell you. So I was getting all these breadcrumbs when they could just been talking to one person or whatever. And then when it made sense, I would redirect them to another person, and that person could send. But I was sending them off because I was trying to find the module. The module says this person knows this, and this person knows this, and this person knows this. So they need to talk to all those different people. And That's dumb. So I love that little touchstone tip to just to find secrets and clues and then just dole them out as appropriate. And then another step is develop fantastic locations. Well, it talks about come up with a evocative name for a location and then coming up with like 3 short sentences, descriptions or something like that you could use to, you could just write it out on an index card and you'll have everything that you need to prepare for that location and it'll still be really evocative. And of course, like if you're running a pre-made module, I don't have to come up with that. I can be lazy and the module's already got all of the locations. Along with that, it says outline important NPCs, and it talks about like coming up with like stereotype, just to give you a touchstone for a character. So this character is, I don't know, is Harry Potter. That's who he is. You know, it's not really Harry Potter. It's not Harry Potter but that's the thing that you have in your mind is who you're thinking of. And this NPC is Hodor from Game of Thrones. You know, that's, you have that character touched on, and then, you know, relevant information that's associated with that NPC. And it says choose relevant monsters. So instead of having like specific NPCs at specific locations and at specific times, you just have a sense of like what's an appropriate encounter, what's appropriate monsters that are available at that location, just dole them out, you know, as appropriate, instead of, you know, going by some type of, instead of it kept coming up with these complex encounters that you have to move your characters to, you just bring them up as they're appropriate. And then the last one is select magic items rewards. So that was part of the prep that I did. And here's the thing, I did all of the prep work on a 3x5 card. And so that's how efficient it is. And like, we still got 4 hours of gameplay out of this right here, which is incredible, right? It's scriggly and you can't read it, but I can. But yeah, so select magic item rewards. There's magic item rewards at specific places and things and stuff like that in the module, but I just moved them around. I said, okay, well, we'll get them this from that, and we'll dole them out at this location whenever they do this. And I'm using stuff from here, but I'm just shuffling around. I feel like I've got a much stronger command of the module just by having a philosophy to follow, you know, instead of going line by line reading the module and I'm like, oh, they didn't find it here because it wasn't in that room, it was in this other room. And I'm like, I really want to give them a magic item reward. It's not important where they got it from, right? Unless, you know, it's just for story reasons. But anyway, that's the thing. So I came up with magic item rewards, and we got that after that last session. Whenever they got done, they could cross a bridge or something like that, and in the module it says, well, they have to go down in the crevasse, and then they'll be able to see the chest. And I didn't do that. I had them just roll a perception check as they cross the bridge, which I knew they would have to cross because you have to cross a bridge. To get where they were going eventually. So I had them roll a perception check. The perception check didn't matter at all. It was just to get them rolling, and then they would see that there was a chest down at the bottom, because they weren't both going to roll natural ones. But they both rolled decent, and so then they saw, maybe if they both rolled below like a 5 or something, I wouldn't have given them the reward. But you get the gist. Is like, I didn't go by just what the module said. And I said, okay, well, they just see this, we'll do this perception check. They'll get to roll. Everybody loves to roll the dice. And then they'll see a chest down there. And they go in there and they, you know, check for traps and pick the lock and open it up. And they got a shiny new, instead of a sword, which was in the module, they got a shiny rapier, which is what the rogue could actually use. So, making it fun for the characters, right? Instead of like, here's a magic sword that nobody can use. We didn't do that. No, gave them something useful. This whole thing just got me thinking of it. So of course this covers the 8 steps. It also talks about several other things that like can enhance gameplay. So like reskinning NPCs. So you'll take like a monster and you just put a new skin on it, give it a new name and everything, but all the stats and everything are the same under the hood, but the characters don't know that. But, just saves you a whole bunch of time instead of coming up with all the stats and all the spells that the monster knows and all of its abilities. And no, you just reuse some of that stuff from another NPC that's somewhat similar to what you're looking for, and call it that. You're done. One of the things that I brought in really cool was ways to get the characters more into the game. And I had already I watched a lot of Critical Role, and one of the things in Critical Role Matt Mercer does whenever a character kills one of the big bads or something that they're fighting, or the last monster of the fight, he'll say, "How do you want to do this?" And then the character describes how they want to defeat the monster or whatever, and then he describes it for them in more elaborate detail. So that's one of the things that it mentions here is one of the ways to increase storytelling is prompt the characters, describe your killing blow, and I've been doing that. I love that. Another thing that I brought up into this thing that was mentioned here is what's an interesting physical characteristic of this monster. So I had a rule, like if the first when a character first hit a new monster, if they go to attack, when whoever first hits him gets to describe the monster. So we had all sorts of different descriptions for monsters. We started giving them nicknames and stuff. So there was Captain Jack. Apparently one of the skeletons was a pirate or something, and then another one was a major. We called him Major General, and then some other ones, and then another one had a top hat within a top hat, and he was called Top. And so it's all sorts of really silly stuff, but they really got into it, and they were really digging it, and I really enjoyed it as well. So instead of here's Monster A or this is Monster B, here's Top, Sir Topham Hat or whatever. And then of course, like when you're going on a long journey, what happens along your journey, so the characters can have a chance to role play things that they made up that happened along the way. If you go to a new location, you could be like, what's an interesting characteristic of this tavern? And like in this tavern, there's there's a book club of barbarians like over in the corner, or something, they make that stuff up and that becomes part of the group storytelling thing. But yeah, such a good book for running a like I said, I'm halfway through the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is a good book. It has a lot of tools and stuff for DMing, but as far as like how to run a game efficiently, not so much. It's got tools to build a world, tools to like settle situations, tools to like generate situations or generate locations and stuff like that, but not so much like the nuts and bolts of like, how do I prepare for a game? And I feel confident, having read this book, that I can prepare a 3 or 4 hour session in about 15 to 30 minutes from a pre-made module, which is exactly what I wanted, and cannot recommend this book enough. We went over time, but I hope I didn't waste your guys' time. Yeah, highly recommend. Highly recommend the book. Recommend the Sly Flourish channel as well, and might look at another review of Return of the Lazy Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master on a couple other channels. I think Dungeon Craft had one, and then I can't remember it's some young dude. I can't remember his name. What is? It doesn't matter. do a search for Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master reviews, and you're going to hear the same thing. It's a fantastic book. If you're a player or whatever, you don't need this book. It's not going to be of any use to you. But if you're thinking about running it, I wish I would have known I wish I'd have known this stuff before I even started running the game, because that would have given me a whole lot more efficiency and confidence going into that. This last session was the best session, at least for the amount of effort that I put into the amount of payoff that I got. So much better. But anyway, we're going over time. We're like 10 minutes past my target. So anyway, bye guys. I'll catch. book reviews are still coming. So, but occasionally I have like things that I'm reading on the side that I'll just pop up and do a review on. And this is the case. It's just a pop up review. The queue is still intact. It's still coming, but yeah, I'll catch you guys later.